Hello, and welcome to the Temple of Mott. This is my Friday night, so I'm in front of my altar to Bast, or to Bastet. But I want to talk a little bit today to my wild women, wise women, and witches about some of the concepts we need to break down in this work that we've kind of all agreed to do toward restoring the goddess in healthy ways in different places in our lives. And so a big part of this comes from magical practice. So one of the things I want to talk about today is Widdershins, the concept of Widdershins. Part of doing this work of restoring the goddess is understanding that layer, that binary of good and evil, is layered over far too many concepts that are basically neutral. And that includes going left or going right. So that includes clockwise or anti-clockwise. So some of the work that I do in the Temple of Mott is taking some of these things and actually employing them as above, so below. So if I believe in the concept that the divine feminine is just as valuable as the divine masculine in my religious or spiritual experience, then that also needs to play out in the type of ritual that I do. That's why I call what I do holistic magic. So in that regard, one of the taboos, so to speak, that you can break is by actually starting to incorporate the concept of Widdershins in a healthier fashion and to actually do the ritual Widdershins. So with that being said, let's kind of look at the actual healthy binaries that go with whether we decide to take a left or whether we decide to take a right. Ideally, you want to be able to integrate the two, so it's usually a choice for one reason or another. So if our going to Yazel is clockwise, then let that be, all your solar rituals. If that ritual is lunar, like if you're doing a full moon, then go ahead and create your circle Widdershins. You're acknowledging that part of life. You're acknowledging the lunar aspects of life. In the solar side, the masculine, or just the active principle. So that's one way to start breaking it down. So next time you do a full moon ritual, if you have a Wiccan or a witchcraft practice where you do set up your quarters, it's okay to do it Widdershins. And another way to look at Widdershins, and this is something that is actually tied directly into the concept of restoring the goddess. If we think of clockwise as moving forward and counterclockwise as moving backward, when we go backward then, instead of taking this exoteric direction towards the sun, taking the more esoteric direction towards the moon. And they both end at center. Whether you're going a clockwise spiral in to out or out to in, it always starts and begins at either at the center point. So just think about that the next time that you're doing like a full moon ritual and you're doing your honoring the goddess. It's okay to go whatever your orientation is. If it's north, go north and west and south and east. And also keep in mind, it's really, everything is really, when you boil it down, it boils down to perspective. So, if you look at a map, you will notice that the orientation of the map is north and south and east and west. So the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. Well, if I'm looking north, that's going to the left. That's not going clockwise. So it really is a perspective thing. Perhaps this concept kind of got it into the human psyche when the South Kingdom of Egypt was more prominent than the North. It's really hard to really determine what that is, but you can also think about that when you're doing ritual of a kind where you want to restore something. So if I want to go back and heal a place perhaps where the goddess was missing, I might design a ritual that went Widdershins to express that winding back of the time and going to that direct spot and healing that. And that also works for ancestral work. It also works for healing your own trauma, whether that be from the patriarchal ones that we're kind of talking about in reference to restoring the goddess, or just family traumas or life traumas. One of the things we can use that Widdershins direction for is to step back in time to that point and heal it. And I'm also starting myself to explore with using that direction because in ancestral work. So kind of I'm setting up space to contact an ancestor. I'm going to start actually working with the Widdershins to wind back time if it's one that I'm close to and I know what point of time I'm going back to. But that's a subject for another day, and I will be sharing with you that type of work that I have started doing about a year ago. And what I learned, I will definitely be sharing with you, especially because it also pertains to my an overarching goal of restoring the goddess within me, taking all those places where she was devalued in my psyche from childhood, and finding them and healing them. So Widdershins is just one of those ways to do that. I encourage you to actually start really thinking about it. What is that divine feminine energy that we're raising? You know, we can replace that binary of good and evil, where the left is evil and which kind of lumped the feminine over there. We can really start healing that by acting on it with sacred intent. So, that's what I wanted to share with you today, this whole idea of working Widdershins. If you have any questions about any of the topics that we cover in these types of videos, please feel free to contact me directly, or you can always post questions to the page on Patreon, and you can also reach me at theknoxvilleRose@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out both spots on Instagram, the Knoxville Rose account and the Temple of Mont Knoxville account. I have content there daily. Share with your friends, and I can't wait to share some more of this Restoring the Goddess work with you. I'm going to tackle the pentacle and the pentagram in the next video like this, and how we can start employing that level of work too, to reclaim the feminine energy in a way that is sacred and holy. Thank you for joining me, wild women, wise women, and witches.